of the most important factors in any sport is technique. Technique really gives us one, effectiveness, efficiency, as the primaries, and essentially it's free speed, free power, if we're getting the technique right. It also has a really important contribution to reducing injuries. So anything that's wrong with our technique may play out as to incorrect angles in terms of biometrics, incorrect stresses through our muscles as well. So for longevity in the sport and for consistency in training, technique is really, really important. Now, even the best of the best, sometimes we think we're good and we're good enough at a certain discipline or technique. To be honest, we're never as good as we could be. So even the best, whether it be the best swimmers like Phelps, tennis players, Federer, they're all working on technique all the time. Even the top golfers are constantly refining their swing. In actual fact, the higher you get in the ladder, the more time they spend on technique to make sure they are effective, efficient, and getting the most out of their bodies in terms of how to perform. It's not all about energy and strength and fitness. So how do we actually refine technique? So first of all, it's about feedback, knowing exactly where we are on the technique continuum. So generally when we talk technique, we go through 4 layers. We kick off at unconscious incompetence. So there's something we're doing that we don't actually know that we're doing it, and that means we're unconscious about it and we're incompetent in that aspect. One of the crucial points around technique is we need to move to conscious incompetence. We need to recognize there's something that can be improved, or there's something that's not as efficient as it could be. Right. So that's all about feedback. Where do we get feedback? Feedback, there's so many avenues nowadays. Obviously there's the using another person, whether it be a coach, a mentor, or even a peer, to have a look at what you're doing and point out anything that's obvious that needs to be corrected. And that just creates an alignment with conscious incompetence. There's something we're doing wrong. There's visual cues. So we can take a video of ourselves or have some video analysis done where we can actually see what we're doing. And that is such value. When you can actually see something you're doing wrong and then execute with video and see yourself doing right, you're halfway there. Then you know what it feels like to do it right compared to doing wrong, and you can fix it. There's wear and tear. You can look at your shoes. Are you wearing on the outside and the inside? There's wear and tear in your muscles as well. Are you breaking down in certain areas of your legs that may be pointing to an deficiency? So wear and tear is a crucial piece. There's sound, particularly with running. If there's a scuff when your foot hits the ground, that's you're definitely creating a resistance there. So when your foot lands, if there's a scuff of it moving forward, that's a braking action. It shouldn't be there. We can correct that. There's just general keeping up to date. Reading websites, blogs, literature on what people are saying it feels like to be efficient. What does a swim stroke feel like when you're dragging it through the water? What does it look like? What should you be doing? Those are really good pointers to actually get efficient. So all of those told will move us slowly from recognizing things we're doing wrong and things we should be working on. That moves us to conscious competence. We then want to get to from unconscious competence to conscious incompetence. We then want to move to conscious competence, and that's about practice and tweaking. What we want to do is then fix those things, one thing at a time, working through, finding out what it feels like and what it is to actually do it right. At that point, we need to focus on it all the time and correct it until it becomes unconscious competence. We can just do it automatically without thinking about it. So again, technique is all about feedback. It's about identifying what can be improved. Feedback is what it looks like and what it feels like when you're doing it right, and then building it through to competence. So how do we go about that? One, we have to have a focus all the time, every discipline we do, on what we're trying to get better at. Generally, I like to think of it, like to focus on one thing at a time per discipline. So with the swim, it may be I'm working on my catch, and I'll work on that every time I get in the pool until I feel it's improved to where I want it to be, and then I might find something else to move on to. But if you focus on 4 things at a time on any particular discipline, you're going to find you're all over the place and you can't correct every one of them. So have a generalized focus on performing correctly, but have a single focus where you've got a 0 tolerance. You're going to fix this, and you're focusing on it all the time. We've got to look out for impact. So generally, anything we change, there's going to be an impact elsewhere. The one might be injury. You may start to use muscles that you've never used before because the technique is so different. Landing on your midfoot rather than on your heel is going to create more pressure on your calf. If your calf hasn't got the load, you may have to back off on volume until your calf builds up to take that new style of running. Or you can take a light post approach, where you get to what it feels like to run right, and then what you do is, the first time you go up, you run between one and the next lamp post in the right technique, and then you do the next 3 lamp posts in your old technique, and slowly you build it up that way until you're actually doing all the lamp posts in the new technique, building it up slowly. But be cautious when you're changing things, because there's always a second impact. Even with the stroke of swimming, if you change something at the front, there may be something happening at the back of your stroke that compensates and you need to be taken care of. So certainly when you're executing change, one, look for impact, particularly injury type impact. You need to build up new muscles for a new technique. Make sure you're not overdoing it. And sometimes you can shortcut that muscle strength build up by executing an action in the gym with more weights and build it up progressively without the repetitive nature of it. So be cautious when you're changing, but have that 0 tolerance focus on change. The last one is with technique is practice. 0 tolerance focus. Every time you turn up, you just got to practice that new technique until it becomes unconscious competence. So always have something you're working on, every discipline, all the time, no matter how good you think you are. And probably as you get closer to the pointy end, the more focus you should have it to actually keep that optimization going. Validate progress. So if you feel you've moved forward with a technique, get a new video analysis, have a look again, how much has it changed? Normally when we change it, we feel like we're exaggerating a movement. When you look at it in video, you're actually not even quite getting it right. Particularly if you've got a swim crossover like that, you bring it to the front, you'll feel like you're swimming out here, meanwhile it's actually over here, meanwhile your arm should actually be in front of your shoulder. So validate every progress. When you feel you're getting it right, validate it with new video, new feedback, get somebody else to check in with you by watching you. Have you actually corrected it as far as it needs to go? Because sometimes there's not. Sometimes as well, recognize there may be a regression in your performance. Change in technique sometimes means you're shifting to slightly different muscle recruitment, and that new muscle recruitment hasn't built up yet. Right. So you may actually have a little reduced power, reduced stride length, and expect that when you've got significant change that you're changing, you may rest a little bit, and then when it actually becomes fluent and conscious competence, and the muscle has a chance, and the muscle memory has a chance to build up, you can then actually progress a lot faster. So technique is absolutely crucial to development, to moving forward. There's never a point where technique isn't important. is always there. There's always room for improvement. The more you improve, there's more focus you'll get on technique, and probably the more you'll do. One of the things I see out there all the time is athletes absolutely smashing themselves in training. Push. Always almost trying to race themselves to improvement. Every session is hard. Every session is hard. Every session is trying to get faster. We need to spend time being more efficient. We need to look for free speed, and that is looking at technique, removing some of the resistance in what we're doing, and really focusing on being the best we can be, not just stronger, not just faster, not just more power, not just fitter.